Thank you, Mayor Dunbar. Okay, as Mayor Dunbar said, my name is Kenneth Lee. I'm the lead consultant for Arkansas Black Mayor Association, and I'm also a retired Natural Resource Conservation Service employee, which we refer to as NRCS. At the time I worked for NRCS, I was assistant, before my retirement, I was assistant state conservation for programs, easements, and watershed. After a few years of being in that position, state conservation decided to split that position, and he created the assistant state conservations for easement and watershed, and then I maintained the assistant state conservation for programs. So that's just a little background of me. But I'm here to talk to you about the project scope. What does the project mean to the community? Okay, it's an opportunity to have flooding issues addressed that you may have all your life, or you may have just recently started having it. It may have been your parents' problems. It's the funding that you would normally have to apply and compete for, so you don't want to miss out on. Normally, with watersheds, you have to, which I get into more detail, but you have to send in a request for it and compete against other people. Well, in this particular situation, the funding has been provided, so you don't want to miss out on this opportunity. It's the first of its kind in the United States. And by saying that, and you probably heard it before, but usually money for watershed usually addresses ag land. As Mayor Dunbar said, we're looking at inside the city, the communities. So this is the first of its kind in the United States. So it's really kind of like a pilot. The fund's main priority is to address flooding within the city, but may involve other areas. And the reason why I say that is because if you're having flooding in the city and it's caused by something that may be outside the city, how can you address it in the city if you don't maybe go to the county and have to address it? As Mayor Washington mentioned, the county judge may be involved. It's something that will need the city, state, federal agency, local government, communities, and other entities involved. By saying that is that this is going to be a group effort. It's not something that a few people can decide. And it may require some other federal agencies being involved. So as the planning process gets going, all this is going to be determined. What cities and communities will be impacted by the watershed? Now, you got to remember we're dealing with a watershed. There are 9 watersheds that connects to the city of Pine Bluff. And when you get to looking at it, and I'm not going to name all these watersheds out, you can look at them on some of the maps and so forth. But when you get to looking at it, at these watersheds, you have, and I'll probably call out the cities and communities that's involved, but I'm going to have to get my sheet out to do that. But once you get to looking at it, it entices more than just Pine Bluff by itself. Because we're looking at watershed. This is dealing with watershed. And so it's going to be some other communities, and I know one other city, which I think is Whitehall, that's tied into that watershed. Okay, thanks. The primary objective of this project is to address the flooding within the city, which I mentioned. Whitehall is also included. I didn't have time to change my presentation. But there's other communities that's listed, and I'm going to go through those in just a second. If you look at the map, which is this map here, you can see the 9 watersheds that's tied in surrounding Pine Bluff, which you'll see later on a map that shows the communities and cities that's going to be involved in it as well. Okay. So we can emphasize enough for you to make sure your community concerns are being recorded by someone. So make sure, you're here today, make sure your information is being provided. If you have flooding issues and stuff, that information needs to be provided because you don't want to miss out. Because once the firm gets to looking at this information, they're going to take the information that's provided today. Now, they're going to probably do their own research trying to get information and so forth, but this is a good starting point for them. You know, as much information they can get right now, that's going to help them along the way. Okay, what are the phases of addressing watershed? And this is just to give you a little history on how watershed really takes place. Okay, phase 1, preliminary investigation feasibility report, which we call PIFR, and I'm going to refer to it as PIFR from here on out. The purpose of the PIFR is to provide reasonable assurance that a feasible plan can be developed that addresses watershed. That means that when they go out and look at the watershed, they need to determine if a plan is needed to address it, that there's really a problem, that there's issues, because you know, you don't want to just go look at a watershed and then there's really nothing there. So this way they determine. And then by doing this, they can determine if it needs funding. And so NRCS is required to do a PIFR before they can put funding towards the planning process. And that's because, like I said, they need to know that there's issues there that they need to address. Okay, after the PIFR is done, it decides if the planning process is needed. Now, I'm going to refer to these watersheds here. Well, before I go to that, let me go ahead and just name the communities and cities, since I missed that earlier. So if you're in that community or that's part of your city, make sure you get your information in on the watershed. Okay, you're looking at Atkins Lake, Baldwin, Dexter, Donaldsonville, Eastwood, Fairfield, Glen Lake, Harding, Hensley Heights, Hooker, Ladd, Leitner, Oakland Heights, Pine Bluff, Plainview, Samples, Sulphur Springs, Warburton, Watson Chapel, West End, Whitehall, Whitefield, Wilkins, and Yorktown. Now, these are ones that are mentioned in the agreement. Okay, now back to the planning process. Okay, the purpose of the planning phase is to determine the issue and develop a plan to address the issues. And what they're going to do, which the firms here today, what they have to come out and do is, you know, review everything that they have. You know, they look at documents, they look at flooding history, maps, you know, and a lot of other things that they look at, and the information that you all provide. You know, your areas that you have flooding and so forth. And they're going to develop alternatives. Once they go through, determine what all the issues are and problems, they're going to develop several alternatives, because there may be costs involved. That one alternative may be okay, that it doesn't cost a lot. Another alternative may cost a little more, and another one may be really expensive. Now, the sponsor is going to be responsible for maintaining these. Now, whatever's being done when it gets to construction stage, you know, that's being done, that's been funded. But once this project is ended, the sponsors are going to be responsible for maintaining anything that's been put out there. So you have several alternatives. Well, once you get to the planning stage, the sponsor will have the opportunity to say, you know, all these alternatives is something that I can't maintain, so I'm not going to go forward with this project. Or they could look at the different alternatives and say, well, this one here we can do. You know, it may not service everybody, but it would serve a lot of people. So they would have several alternatives to look at and make decisions from it. Okay, now in the planning stage, once we get done with the planning stage, it goes to NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service. And then it will go to the National Water Management Center, and they would have to approve the plan before it can move to the next stage. Now, you know, I said I was going to talk about the watersheds here. This watershed, these 9 watersheds are fully funded. They're funded for the planning, design, and construction. So I'm going to, because normally watersheds are done a little different. You do the planning phase, you get funding, you get approved, then you request funding for the design stage. Same thing after the design stage, you get approved, it gets done, you request funding for the construction stage. Well, fortunately enough, the city, the watersheds we're working with now are fully funded. So they have funding for the planning stage, design stage, and the construction stage. So once the planning phase gets done, it still has to be approved. the plan still has to be approved by NRCS because they want a functional plan. So once they approve the plan, then it moves to the next phase, which is phase 3, the design phase. And the purpose of the design phase is to design any practices that are needed to address the problem determined by the planning phase. So whatever that the plan says is needed out there, whether it's a culvert, a ditch needed cleaning, or some trees planted, or a pumping plant, or whatever that planning comes up with, the design stage is to design that structure or that practice or whatever that's needed out there. Now, it's going to still be based off of if that sponsor says, I want this alternative, and what's in that alternative. Okay, and then the design phase is approved, it still has to go through NRCS for their approval. And it goes up to the National Water Management Center. If they agree with what's in there and so forth and think everything's feasible, then it comes back and it moves on to the final stage, which is the construction phase. And once it gets to the purpose of the construction phase is to implement or install the practices that are mentioned in the design phase. So this is where the meat hits the ground. This is where you actually see a product coming out there to address the issues that you're having and so forth. And once this phase is completed, the watershed project is pretty much done. The only thing remaining then is the sponsor's responsibility to maintain whatever was put out there for 50 years. Okay, where are we now? And this is basically telling you where we are as far as what we've been doing with the watershed. We have been working with getting firms selected to do the planning, which will be discussed later on. There will be community meetings, such as this one, and other means to gather detailed information about your flooding issues. We will be working hand in hand with selected firms, city, local government, and any other agency that will need to be involved. That means that while this planning processes are going on, we're going to be in close contact with the firm. We're going to be in close contact with the communities. We're going to be making sure everything's going smoothly. We're going to be in close contact with Natural Resources Conservation Service, keeping them informed on what's going on because they're the ones that has the funding. They're the ones that we have to make sure everything's going smoothly with. Okay, and this slide is kind of a duplicate except for the last item. We need community to provide all the details possible, which is really what this meeting is about, and to be involved to allow this project to have the potential to address everyone's need. That means we really need your input. I mean, to really be successful, to address everybody's problems, we need everybody's input. And if you know somebody that's not here and they got problems, make sure their information get in. Let them know. Tell them, because there's websites, there's different places they can provide their information. So go back, tell them, hey, your area is included. Make sure you get your information in. And if you don't know if their area is included, if they having flooding issues, let us know, because who knows what may come down the mill. If their area is not covered, I mean, we steady trying to get more of these projects in place. We have other agreements that we're working on trying to get more funding for communities, such as this, to get them involved and so forth. So, get the information out. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Karen McCurdy.
Thank you. Yep, there you go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to be here with you. My name's Karen McCurdy. I'm an engineer with engineering firm Craft and Toll, and I am serving as project manager with BMA on this project. So I am going to tell you a little bit go into a deeper dive on the planning process, which is the stage of the project that we're in right now. I'm going to talk about what's in a plan and how we're going to develop it, the timeline, and then I'm going to introduce you to the consultants who have been selected to work here in Pine Bluff with you and your communities to build this plan over the course of the next couple of years. So we're talking about need. Well, I don't think anybody here is going to argue that Pine Bluff doesn't have a flooding problem. Here's a cool picture from 1927 and 2019. Obviously, we've had flooding here for many, many years, and look forward to implementing all kinds of great projects that are going to reduce that problem. So when we talk about a watershed, we're just talking about a drainage basin, talking about where water flows, when it flows downhill, and where it goes. So that's what a watershed is. They're all different levels. We talked a little bit about the 9 watersheds here. I'm going to click through some maps really quickly just to show you. Oh, this is pretty light. It's hard to see, but you're sitting in between 2 larger watersheds that run from west of Little Rock all the way down to the Louisiana border. This little tomahawk steak looking blue area is the area of this particular project. Yeah, these colors are so washed out it's hard to see. But these are the 9 watersheds that Kenneth showed you, and then these are all the communities that he listed that are included in this project. So we're really excited all of you are here, and like Kenneth said, please tell your neighbors and your friends and everyone at church to participate with us and get all the feedback that we can get. So what is this plan we're talking about? The NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, that Kenneth was talking about, is funding this project, and they have a very particular planning process and format for what these plans are. It's not just spitballing on a wall. There are procedures that we're going to go through. We're going to quantify social, cultural, economic, and environmental conditions in your communities, and take a look and listen to the public and come up with a set of possible solutions to the problems. We're going to describe all those alternatives and assess the environmental impacts of potential solutions for all the different alternatives and compare them. I'm going to describe the extent to which each alternative is going to solve the problem, and then go through a process to select a preferred alternative. We're going to talk about the arrangements and responsibilities for financing, installation, operation, and maintenance. So this is a comprehensive look at the project area, possible solutions, and then an evaluation process that helps us determine what a preferred solution or set of solutions is for you in this community in these watersheds. The plan itself, once it's complete, it's a document, and it contains, first and foremost, the purpose and the need for the action. It describes the flooding. It talks about why you need these projects and what the purpose for doing them is. Talks about the scope, the affected environment, all the alternatives, the environmental consequences of doing these alternatives. A lot of them are good. Some produce more good than others. Some have side effects or consequences. These all get quantified. And then there's a section that talks about the consultation, the coordination, the public participation to ensure that these plans really do have public involvement and that your voices are heard and considered and a part of the plan. All this comes down to a selected set of preferred alternatives, and then there's a whole bunch of maps and references and documents and computer models and all kinds of good stuff to support the decisions that are listed out and discussed in the report. This is done in a process, 3 parts. The first part that we're just starting tonight is to listen, to hear, and to start cataloging and inventorying all the resources, problems, and starting the analysis of those. From that, we determine what the objectives are for the plan, and then we move into the second phase, which is formulating the alternatives, evaluating those alternatives, and doing that on an iterative basis until we get a good set of alternatives to consider. Those are evaluated, and then the plan is implemented. So this process takes a minute. You will be invited to meetings like this. You will be asked for your input. You will see stories in the newspaper. You will receive information from the design group and others on behalf of ABMA. And then you might not hear something for a little bit. And while you aren't hearing something, it's not that nothing's happening. It's that there are a group of people in a back room somewhere running computer models and studying where does the water flow, where does it back up, what is happening to it. There's a lot of engineering analysis that goes into evaluating these alternatives, but it's not always particularly public facing. So there may be times when you wonder, and for those times, just ask. We are going to be working over the course from today until the end of September 2024. Key milestones for this project are to have a draft plan submitted for NRCS review in January of 2024, distributed for public comment in August, and then a final plan for authorization and review by October of 2024. So there will be times in there where, like I said, analysis is taking place and we're not necessarily having a lot of meetings. But you'll always know that these folks, the consultants that I want to introduce to you tonight, are going to be leading this effort, and then I'll show you here in a few minutes how we're going to stay in touch through a website and some other forms of communication throughout the process. So I'd like to introduce you, Edwin and Philip, will you guys stand up? We've got a joint venture between EJES Engineering and FTN and Associates in association with AECOM and M&E Consultants, who are going to be the leads for the planning process in this area here in Pine Bluff. Edwin Jones, professional engineer. He's the principal in charge of the project. He heads EJES, and it's a multidisciplinary architecture engineering firm. And then I'm going to introduce Philip, and then you guys can say a few words if you'd like. Philip Masser, also professional engineer. He's the project manager with FTN and Associates. Do you guys want to say hi, or?
I went to another college, but another SWAC school, but we did spend a lot of time there with the UAPB. You know, I'm from Louisiana, so it's that school down in Baton Rouge. Yeah. Not Brownie. But we love UAPB, but we are excited about the program. We really are great to have the opportunity to work with this great city, with the mayor. So, Mayor, we are gonna do a great job for the city, and we're putting the city first, and we care about Pine Bluff, and we're gonna make sure we deliver.
All right, well, as far as keeping in touch, Wonderful Design Group has a website set up for us, and it abmawatershedproject.com. It's there's a watershed project piece right up here in the corner. You can click on it, and it will take you to a list of all the projects. So we're here talking tonight about the City of Pine Bluff project. There are 13 other projects ongoing throughout the state of Arkansas going through this program at the same time. So this website, you'll see all 14 together, and then you look for Project 12, go 12, City of Pine Bluff, and as the project advances, there will be an individual page for Pine Bluff. This is, it's getting built as the program grows, so the individual page will take you to a survey, which I'm going to introduce to you here in just a second, and maps and information. And as we get more information, there'll be more information up here. So we'll have contact information for Edwin and Philip and Eric and their teams. And so now we've talked long enough, and we're going to open this to a community input session, listening session. Really want to hear about your experiences. The first thing we have for you is a survey. You see these QR codes all over the room. If you hit those with the camera of your phone, it will take you to a survey. I apologize for the washed out nature. I need to learn to do a little bit heavier slides, I guess. But there's the ability to do this online on the computer through your smartphone or tablet, and we also have some printed hard copy clipboards and pens back on the sign-in table where you can fill out the information there. It's going to ask you for some contact information and particularly some information about any specific areas that you know that have flooding issues, whether it be at your home, at your business, on a road, anywhere within this project area. You'll be able to click a location on a map or type in some information and let us know where those problem areas are. You can put your contact information in to receive more information later if you want us to get in touch with you. So please fill out these surveys. It's so important to Edwin and Philip and their teams to be able to get great information for this plan so that it's built on a foundation of your input. And with that, I think we are going to open the floor. Kevin here is going to, I think, turn the microphones on. And we've got a couple of microphones here. If you'd like to come up and share about your experiences, we'll be recording and taking notes and getting information through the surveys. Any way we can get it, we'd love for you to share it. And we've got microphones all up here. If you have questions, please feel free.
I live on, is the mic on? Yeah. I live on 38 South Indiana Street here in Pine Bluff, and I have a flood, and I have had a flood just about since I've been there. And I've been calling to the courthouse and trying to get information for them to dig my ditch out where I'll be able to go to my doctor's appointment without any problem, because sometimes I have to go on a van in a wheelchair because of my condition sometimes. And I would appreciate if there's someone come out and check my property out. It needs to be built up a little bit, but not that much. To keep the ditch. At first, the ditch was dug out and the water would flow out pretty quickly. And then here, about 4 or 5 years ago, it just started staying there for a couple of days.
Anyone
One of y'all want to say something to that?
I think she was just.
Okay, she was just making a statement. Just make sure you get the form, ma'am. Make sure you get signed that form. He'll be able to share that with you so we can collect that information. Thank you.
Hi, am I on?
Yes.
And Laura Wise, I live in the Atkins Lake area. Sir? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Laura Wise, I live on Celia Road out near Atkins Lake. I'm in the county, and it's a tremendous, tremendous problem. My house has flooded 3 times since I bought it in 2015. I have 9.25 acres of land that at any given day, if it's rain, I have 9.9 acres underwater. I have pictures if anyone wants to see. I've had 3 flood claims. I do live in a Zone A flood, but I am at least 5 miles from the Arkansas River. If the levee breaks, I'm expected to get 2 feet of water in my house. I'm not expected to have water in my house just because it rains. The water has to come from the railroad tracks on Atkins Lake Road all the way down to Celia Road. I get water from Agri that crosses under Celia Road from Jamie Price's farm. I get water from the Ruggieri's farm. I get water from the mills, and I have 7 acres underwater all year long. I have a cattail farm, and it used to not be this way. The water has to travel across my property, and then it has to go through Jamie Price's property, then it goes through McIntyre's property, it goes underneath the railroad tracks, and then it goes through Mike Klein's property. All of these people blame it on beaver dams, but it is the county flow. This water goes from our ditches to the Arkansas River. I've been to quorum court meetings, I've been to county judges, I've been to the road department, and nothing gets done. I am in desperate need.
Okay, that's the reason why we need this detailed information. Also, pictures, if you got those, please provide them. They would be a tremendous help. Well, okay. Would you be able
I
to
should
send them?
men-
Okay, now,
I should mention that you can upload photos on the online. If you hit the QR code, do
Y'all are
that.
gonna be my best friend, hopefully.
and the
ma'am.
other thing I want to say toward
Ma'am,
that too
can you
is
scan
that
this? Can you use that
the
as well?
planning process,
You don't- okay.
the planning process, once they get to going with the planning process, they will be looking at details of what's causing the problems and stuff. So if it's not beaver dams, they should be looking to see what's causing. Oh.
Yes, I got pictures.
But we,
Kayaks, not
okay, well, we want to get, and I know there's other people that have pictures and stuff too, so please provide those so we would have that information. But, you know, like I said, the planning process is really designed to try to figure out what's the issue that's causing this, so we can get a good solution to try to fix those problems.
Yeah, there is no drainage canal. It just passes across the land, and the landowners have no responsibility to keep their land clear because my house is flooded. I've had my house jacked up on one end, and they had to go 20 feet before they get solid ground.
Okay. And yes, we're gonna make sure that EJES has that information in the next week or so.
I have a concrete driveway where water has washed my soil away over the years, where there's space underneath my concrete driveway now.
And these are the stories that we need. That's why we need you all to come to one of these microphones and share your story so we can collect this information and make sure that Mr. Edwin Firm has it to be able to solve those problems. So thank you very much, and make sure you scan, everybody, make sure that you scan this code here so we can gather the information. Thank you. Mr. Pastor Turner?
Yes, sir. Judge Turner is my name. I've lived here all my life. Pine Bluff has an acute flooding problem. There are about 500 miles of open ditches in Pine Bluff. Normally they are full of grass, debris, and when they come and dig the ditches out, they don't dig them where the water will run towards the drain. They just dig them out. Then it's left a valley, and then you have a mosquito bed building there because the ditch is full of water. Will the questions now, will the funding that you all are going to do take into account of all of these open ditches that are in Pine Bluff, so that when they fill up with debris or grass and they dig them out, they don't just dig it deeper. They'll dig it out and clean it out. Next time we come in, dig it deeper and deeper. So would that construction take place and where you can do putting culverts in those ditches?
Okay. As far as that question, when the designs and stuff, when the construction is done, it has to meet NRCS specification. And, you know, like I said, I used to work for NRCS, and Randy, he's still with NRCS. He's an engineer, and he can testify to this. But whenever those structures and stuff are put in, we have to make sure they're functional. And so once it's done, it won't pass inspection unless it's functional. So if that's part of what's required to address it and it's approved, then it has to be a functional practice that's been put in. It can't be something that's just done and it doesn't work.
Okay.
So to answer your question, it has to be functional.
I say that because 39 years ago, this city was discussing flooding problems here in our community. And basically nothing has been done to alleviate it. Now, this is not all of Pine Bluff here. Will you have field officers who will do some survey work, footwork themselves? And will you have an office where those people who are going to work can come there after hours or either during the lunch break and fill out some information, because everybody doesn't have the computers and so forth? So how are you going to reach those who are not connected with the internet? What's the plan? Do you have a plan? Anything?
One of the first acts of the EJS FTN partnership, one of their first deliverables for their project is their public participation plan, which they're working on now. So I don't know the details of that, but there will be a public participation plan in place that will guide their efforts throughout this project.
Okay, my final question, field reps, will there be field reps that will go door to door or make, neighborhood contact? Is that going to take place, do you think?
So let me try and add to the answer.
All right.
We've got outreach teams that will be working with the communities, and that's part of the planning process. But I also need to let you all know that although there's a finite amount of money, we know that it's not enough to cover every issue that you're going to have. We know that. And I think the allocation for Pine Bluff is 30 million, 32 million, and you probably got 60 million worth of problems. And we're going to have to rely on the engineers and the community residents to let them know. And there will have a team out here that you can reach out to on a regular basis, on a daily basis. But we won't know what we get into until they get into it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. Is this mic on?
Yes.
If not, I can talk loud enough. I'm in the Broadmoor area, and you almost need a boat to come down Colonial Street just to get to my house because of the flooding problem over there. And I have pictures. I've called, I've talked to people at the street department, and they've told me that this is an engineer problem. Now that I'm here and I wrote your names down, I want to see some engineers in my area, because the ditches on Commerce Road has been dug out, but it's so strange. They tell me that the water that floods on Colonial Street is because they have to wait on the water to get over the sidewalk. over the sidewalk to run under the sidewalk. That's a lie. I dug that up underneath that sidewalk so that water can run under. But it does not make sense to me that you can't come down Colonial if it rains. I got pictures. I got videos. I got anything you need. See me.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Make sure that you scan it if you haven't already and upload those pictures.
Yes, I'm Douglas Allen, and I have rental properties here. And over on off of the 34th in Louisiana area over there, there's an entire section that every time it rains more than 2 inches, I've got 8 inches of water in my yard. The neighbors over there, I don't see them here, but I'm going to be talking to them because y'all said we're going to be the outreach. I am, for my area. The same thing they talked about. Part of the problem, I believe, is when they dredge those ditches out, they forget you're changing the topography of the flow. You're changing the flow. And with our city situation about keeping our drainages clean, that's part of the problem. Now, he said something a while ago about the money, and it can't spread but so far. We understand that. But the problem the question I have is, will it be spreading in the neighborhoods or in the downtown area? Will it be spreading in my neighborhood or some elected official neighborhood? I'm serious now. We know how Pine Bluff is. We want to see things happen in our neighborhood. I've got 2 houses that my tenants cannot get to when it rains. And there's well, if anybody know, 34th in Louisiana goes from, it's a straight strip. In the middle of that strip, on just one side, you can't do anything. There's 8 houses that flood every time it do it. And over there, I talked to one of the neighbors, and she explained to me, they went across the street, they stopped at one of my houses, and went across the street with the drainage ditch. It don't make sense to me, but that's why you all are here to try to address this. But the question I have is it going to affect the simple local people here? We need to, that's what that lady was talking about, and I'm sure this lady here. It happens, okay, go ahead.
I think the simple answer is yes.
Okay.
That's the whole point of this.
Okay, all right. All right, so now, we all know that Pine Bluff flood, and I'm gonna get off of that, but I do want to ask this question. When you all were talking about the sponsors who are going to have to maintain it afterwards, after you all finish your process. Who are those sponsors? Is that gonna be the city?
The sponsor would be, some would be the county judge, some would be the city. The sponsor also may be somebody that owns some farmland that they have to get permission to go in and move some of that water out. So
Okay.
you are in a good situation where you have some people in here that really care about this flooding, and I think y'all county judge is gonna do a good job working with y'all.
I agree. Okay, that did it. I think that's gonna take care of what I had to ask.
And when those plans are developed, like Mr. Lee said, those plans are going to be public, where you all will be able to voice your opinion and say, make sure you don't leave me out, because this information we gathering today is about making sure that your neighborhood is in there, not just downtown and the elected officials like you may have said, but it's everybody. That's why it's so important that y'all spread the word to all your friends and family around Jefferson County to say, make sure that you input your information where you at, so when ESGA has those meetings, because they're going to have multiple meetings to come down here to make sure that they capture all this information, and once they do that, you all will be able to sit down and say, oh, I want to make sure that my street, my town, my street and my city is in there. So you're going down the right road.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Let me first just thank President Dunbar and the Black Mayors Association for their leadership in this watershed project. Certainly, all of us here tonight have some problem, or know of some problem with flooding in our community and the communities around the Pine Bluff area. Now, the first photograph I think you put up, the project manager put up, was a picture of 1927. Well, I happened to grow up in a household where 1927 and the flood of 1927 was the conversation every Sunday at my grandmother's house. And my mother was about 9 years old during 27, so I think they had to leave someplace in southern Arkansas to go out to the hills of Hamburg or someplace. So we have a real background in terms of flooding, and in my graduate work in school that was always a part of my investigation. We're here tonight to talk about specifically what's going on in our neighborhoods and how it's affecting us. However, my question goes to more of a regional Mississippi Valley issue. You know, water has to go someplace, and certainly with the Mississippi River and other rivers, tributaries in Arkansas, most of those flow into the Mississippi River someplace. So the Mississippi River having the mouth of the Mississippi, the origin of the Mississippi, I think, is in Minnesota. Then you go into Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, right on that. So my question is, whatever we do with infrastructure here, how is it how is it affecting the connection between what's happening with the Mississippi Valley area? Because I think it's all interconnected there. If you don't do something with that, then how is it going to affect the drainage in our community? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Davis, I think you may have been around in 27. I don't know, but you know, that's what these engineers are going to come in here and do. They're going to look at all of that information, and they'll be able to tell you based on, I guess, hydraulic modeling and topographical aerial photo. They'll be able to do that. That's what they're paid to do, and we can't answer that tonight. But hopefully in a few months, maybe a year or so, after they've done their studies, then they'll be able to provide some alternatives or some different courses of action to address the issues. Because we know sometimes flooding is a result of what someone did over here that caused me to flood over here. So they're going to look at all of that.
My name is Brenda Ricks, and good evening to everyone. I've been dealing with drainage problems. I do know since 2019. I went and I took photos. I listened to Brother Donald Floyd on the radio, and he was saying that the meeting was going to be tonight. I made sure I plugged that in, and I do get emotional, and I must remember everything is done decent and in order, because I will take out. But my drainage problem is where I have pictures where the ditch runs, where there's trees on both sides of the ditches. So when the ditches is full, all the trees fall, limbs from the winter. They still laying out there from the winter. Nobody has came to clean the drainages out. I've had the city since 2019, when the other alderman right there was on the council. But to make a short story not long, I've been dealing with the city, and I have the city response to what my problem is. Dig up your front yard, put PC pipes, decent and in order, Brenda. PC pipes, run PC pipes. This week. I've been dealing with the city since February of this year, and this is what they tell me. I have their letter stating what needs to be done. I feel like Pine Bluff, I don't mean no harm. We here, and they say, we the people, They listen to us, but they don't listen to us. Ain't nobody never came and knocked on my door and said, Miss Ricks, da-da-da-da-da. Miss Ricks, where is your problem? Even the mayor told me in 2019 that she would come to my house. I have not seen the mayor until we at church on Sunday morning. Okay? Come on now. We the people. It's our votes. It's us. Okay? I walked. I got 300 people written. I came and gave it to the city council. Ain't nothing been done yet. That was in 2019. Here it is, 2023. How long is it gonna take us? That's been 4 years with these people, and nothing ain't been done. What are y'all gonna do?
Thank you, Ms. Ricks. Thank you, Ms. Ricks.
And hear my response.
Ms. Ricks,
Excuse
Ms.
me.
Ricks.
They're my response from the city. And my response is on there also. I have a couple of neighbors. We are the only ones that fights. I don't live in, I heard Floyd Donald, and I listen to him. I take him to heart, okay? He said, you take the neighbor out of neighborhood. People say, I live in the hood. I don't live in the hood. I live in a neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ricks. Ms. Ricks, did you scan? Ms. Ricks, would you scan that to make sure we gather?
Scan them, they're pictures. Y'all can have them, and they're the letter.
Okay, thank you very much. The good thing about it is your voice has been heard. Your voice will continue to be heard. Despite whatever has happened in the past, we're going to make sure that you're taken care of.
You know, I can't just sit back and not. These are quality of life issues. That's why this project is so important. Commentaries like that is why this is so important. This is a quality of life issue. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that we have to address those issues. And we want to take full advantage of it. And we need that kind of input. We need input from the residents. We need all of those stories fed to Mr. Jones and the FTN team to be able to come out and look at these areas and see what we can do to help that. But these are quality of life issues, and that's why we got to fight to keep this project focused where it's supposed to be, and that is in these neighborhoods and in these areas, so we don't have people who feel like, I don't have a choice, I have to live in a flood zone because back when my great-great-grandparents, this is all they could afford. So now we have a chance, and that's what we're here for. So thank you for that, ma'am.
And like Mayor Dunbar said, we need that passion. That's why we here. We need to hear from you all. Please step up to the mics and share that passion like Ms. Ricks did. And ABMA, Arkansas Black Mayors, is not here to sell y'all some jive. We have the money. We have the firms. All we need is the addresses. We have the money. We have the firms. All we need is the addresses. Thank you, Ms. Ricks.
Hello.
They ain't came yet. They gave me that paper. They ain't came to clean my ditches out. Still got stuff from last winter. Still laying in the ditch.
Yes.
You got the pictures.
Yes, we'll take care of that. Thank you, Ms. Ricks.
Good evening. I'm former council member Joni Alexander Robinson, and I think this is a wonderful project, being that Pine Bluff was built in a lake bed. You know, we've had flooding since the beginning of time. My concern is more so from things that I've been hearing, and I don't know if it's true. I think the whole pot of money was about $90-some million,
That's
correct? And I think Pine Bluff has the largest amount, which is about $32 million.
That's correct.
So what I'm hearing is that Pine Bluff would like to withdraw their $32 million separately. My issue with this is, I've also heard this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if we withdraw our money from the full pot, it has to go back to DC and be reapproved for us to get it.
That's correct.
And is it worth the gamble for Pine Bluff to send our $32 million back to get reapproved to do it separately versus with the group?
Yeah, everything you just stated is correct. If I'm not correct, I would like to point out that we have the Assistant Conservation NRCS, Randy Children's there in a white shirt. So that's what we've ensured. You're right. You all will be at risk if you all try to pull out to send that money back to DC. DC get it. There's no telling who may get it. It may not come back to Arkansas. It may come to somewhere else. They may allow us to use it and take it to West Memphis or something. But that's the chance that you all take if we don't get this agreement signed within the next 18 months.
So what is it that the citizens and the city council can do? And I asked that because I was also told there was a letter addressed to the mayor's office and the council was CC'd when I was on the council. I never received a letter. I wish I had known everything that was happening behind the scenes, so maybe we can step in and help with whatever those problems were. I'm not negating any of that. I just don't agree that we should send it to DC because that is a gamble, especially with the political climate that we're in and it's campaign season for a presidential election and blue and red, all of that. What can we do to have a more detailed conversation to just let our leadership know and elected officials know that this is not what we want?
Well, we, and I share this just as easy and clear, we need the agreement signed from Pine Bluff, the City of Pine Bluff office.
Who signs that agreement?
We need y'all council people to vote on it, and then it would have to be signed by you all, Mayor. And I think Mayor
Is
Washington.
that the meeting that was called by Councilmember Bruce Lockett and 5 council members did not show up?
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
but we're, that is true, ma'am. Whatever the information that you're getting, you are on point with that information. For this meeting, we're glad that you shared that because the people need to know. But I'll let Mayor Dunbar elaborate on that a little bit more.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you know, I can't get into internal city business. All I can tell you is we have an agreement and we're moving forward. That's all that really matters at this point. We have hired an engineer firm. People, I'm a military guy, and rumors destroy units. So when you start listening to rumors, I can't speak to Pine Bluff's internal workings. But what I can tell you is we have an signed agreement with NRCS from the USDA. We have the money here in the state. We have the engineer firms hired. We're out here tonight to reach out to you all as citizens to let us know where these problem areas are and how we can then begin to address them.
I'm slightly offended that you called it a rumor because I think it may have been a rumor before there was an official meeting called.
Yes, ma'am.
That the council members did not show up for. And I know right now you do have the money, but if that agreement is not signed, and what did you say, 18 months? And Pine Bluff is trying to withdraw, will you still have the $32 million to fix the drainage in this city?
Well, all I can tell you, and I do apologize if I offended you, that was not my intent, but my point was we don't get into internal city business. What we have right now is an agreement signed with NRCS to work this project, and that's what we're doing. That's about as far as I can go with that. So I hope that suffices.
And
No?
and what you're saying is a good point, but also something to go along with that is even if they wasn't trying to send the money back, and once the plan was done, and it was way over the 32 million, and it was something that the city couldn't do, then it still wouldn't get done. The money still would end up going back. But no, that's just a possibility, a very slim possibility, but that's also there. But you make a very good point. You know, in order to move forward, you know, everybody has to be on board because we can't do anything without the sponsors that's going to be responsible for the maintenance. They're the ones that's going to have to sign the agreement to continue that maintenance. Otherwise, we can't move forward.
So let me just add this to it. The risk for us as the ABMA was too great to allow that money to go back. That's why we were fighting so hard to keep the money here. We could not, because this is not just about Pine Bluff. Had that money gone back, there's things happening on the West Coast that probably would have taken priority over that money coming back to Arkansas. So we could not take that risk because if the money for Pine Bluff is broken, then it's a domino effect and it affects so many other smaller communities that don't have a voice. So we've been standing fast in our efforts to keep this agreement together. And that's why I made the statement that we have the agreement and we're moving forward. But that risk was too great for us.
Thank you. My name is Vivian Flowers, and I'm state representative for District 65. We are in District 65, And I wanted to share a little bit of information to clarify some of what you've heard, and I know I got here a little bit late, because I have been involved in the process in trying to bring flood prevention funds from USDA for years. It started before the Biden administration even applied or dedicated infrastructure funds, because there have always been funds available to deal with flood prevention. It just so happens that those dollars have never been applied to the cities and the areas, the watersheds that needed it most. There has been a priority placed upon irrigation for farms, which we have farming communities. We're in an agricultural state. But once there was the level of funding that was made available from President Biden and his infrastructure dollars, there became an opportunity for us to apply for these funds. But you need to know that before any of that happened, the Legislative Black Caucus, of which I am a member, made it a priority to work with advocates, because nobody was getting paid, there were no grants, to send a letter to the Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C., to the Secretary, to ask that a priority be placed and that funds available that had been appropriated be made available to these areas in Southeast Arkansas and in the Delta. 2 letters came from the caucus before the infrastructure funds were made available. Once the infrastructure funds were made available, we worked with the city, we worked with Mr. Trice, before ABMA was ever in the picture, to try to make sure that those dollars would come. And the only reason that a very large proportion of the funds that were made available in the country made it to Arkansas, which didn't even vote for Biden. Think about that. We got a huge proportion of the dollars for the country. It made it to Arkansas, and that is because we have advocates in Washington, D.C. from Arkansas. And it was the conversations and the advocacy of the Legislative Black Caucus that sought for the Black Mayors Association to serve as a sponsor and to serve as a fiscal agent for these grants or these proposals that the cities themselves sent in to USDA with the assistance of ABMA, with technical assistance. They were a part of it. This has always been done as an effort. No one in the country is doing this, where there is a third party outside of the state offices, which is in Arkansas, NRCS. Nobody's doing this. This was a pilot. This was supposed to be an example. And it has turned into a mess because of division that is created by misinformation that you are hearing tonight. I don't have anything to gain. Vivian Flowers will never get a check. Vivian Flowers will never be paid for the time she invested. I've invested the time and advocated because it is my job as your representative. So I'm telling you that from that perspective. I want to tell you that I was on a call months ago, last year, that included Mr. Randy Childress. And Mr. Randy Childress himself said, when he was concerned about the capacity of ABMA to manage as the fiscal agent, and everybody on the dais was not on that call, he himself said that the fully funded cities could elect to manage their own projects if they had the capacity. You also must understand that with grants like this, there is a 10% administrative funding that goes to whoever manages. This was always meant for ABMA, as well as the cities, to share in that capacity building, utilizing those funds to manage our own projects, to determine who our engineers would be, to determine where the work got done, and I could go on. I want you to know, based on my understanding, and I had a call less than 2 weeks ago with an official in Washington, D.C. with USDA, several conversations, and I was told emphatically that we would not lose our money. That we would not lose our money. There is a commitment to these dollars going to these areas, and give me just a minute. There is a commitment going to the, hold on, I'm not finished. There is a commitment that has been made. I had a one-on-one conversation, several conversations. We will not lose the dollars. That we are not sending back money. The mayor's effort, and I'm going to say this so you all understand the context. Mayor, you and I don't agree on everything, right? And I don't rubber stamp anything that anybody says. And she doesn't rubber stamp what I say. But I'm telling you that I have supported and still support the effort for Pine Bluff to manage its own dollars for the capacity building, for the control, and to ensure that the dollars stay in Pine Bluff first, rather the entire watershed that includes Whitehall.
So, thank you.
I'm not finished.
Well,
I'm not finished. This is a
okay.
public meeting, it's my district, and I'm gonna finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So what you also need to know, you've heard that we would be sending dollars back. No one in this room will be able to show you or prove to you that that money has been spent. That money has to be spent and be shown that to be reimbursed for the dollars. You can draw down money in advance, but I promise you, on my house, on my life, $32 million is not sitting in an account that is managed by a BMA. That is not how this works. So please be mindful that tonight it is important for you all as constituents, as citizens, to share what your problems and your issues have been with flooding. But I also finally want to manage everybody's expectations in this room, because this right here is not really about you. This is not about you.
Yeah.
Because there are several phases that culminates into a construction phase. That construction phase will not happen for years. So anyone coming here thinking that you're going to scan this and share your problems and then next year it'll be fixed, that is a bold-faced untruth. I'm not even going to say lie. I'm not finished. I'm just about finished.
Ma'am, may we have...
I'm not saying they said it would be finished, but I'm saying the implications of scan this, we have the information, we'll get you fixed. Nobody, there's still a planning and design phase that's going to take years. Nobody knows what's going to be fixed.
Okay.
Nobody knows that.
Representative
And I'm almost finished.
Miss Vivian, I'm
almost
one of your
finished.
church members. I have a question for you. You said the money's guaranteed. Are you willing to pay $32 million if the money don't come? That's what I want to know. I live in Pine Bluff. I deal with these issues
hold on,
here.
sir.
Are you ready to pay
I live in Pine
$32
Bluff
million
too, and
if
what
the
I
money
just
don't
said,
come? 'Cause you
what
can
I'm not going to
guarantee
argue with you.
that it's coming.
I'm here to talk to my constituents.
Representative
And what I
Fowler,
will
let someone
read,
else-
and what
let
I
us-
will,
let us
and
address
what I
some of your
will-
questions,
and-
please.
I didn't make a question yet because I do
Well,
have
let
one.
us address some of the statements you made.
What I said was, you are being told that money will be sent back, and I'm telling you that $32 million has not been sent. That is a misnomer. That's a misconception.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler.
$32 million has been awarded. It has not been sent. So there's nothing to send back. The only thing that has been done is the request, which Mr. Childress said that fully funded cities can do, is for the city of Pine Bluff to manage its own project.
Okay.
That is what we are still waiting for from the decision from USDA. So when I say this is not about you, it is not about you, because you scanning something doesn't do anything to determine what that decision will be. You are being used, and I don't appreciate it. This is my district. You are my people, and I won't have you being manipulated in the middle of this kind of foolishness.
So, you know,
And my
Ma- What-
question is, can you talk about what that watershed includes? If you were to manage this project, would the planning and construction include just Pine Bluff or other areas of the watershed outside of Pine Bluff? Thank you.
So there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot. But first of all, there's no misinformation being spewed out here tonight. We are here to try to make an honest effort to help the citizens of Pine Bluff. So as far as any misinformation.
I said what I said.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't
did.
stand,
Ma'am,
who you're going to believe, your
Ma'am.
representative or somebody who stands to gain 10% of the funding?
So here's the thing. First of all, this is not a grant. This is an agreement. This is an agreement from NRCS to work to fix the watersheds, to help fix the flooding issues inside of city limits. It's not a grant. So, that's kind of a misnomer. And I'm not going to try and address everything that she said. She feels the way she feels. But the bottom line is we're here to try to help move this project forward. Now, you may have some other contentious ideas or thoughts about it. The bottom line is give us a chance. Give us your name. We want to know where the issues are. We have the engineers here. We're going to work this project. And if you want to point to any periods in the past, then you can point to those. But we're talking about here, now, tonight. And this is why we're here. We come to help the city of Pine Bluff. Now, you all can help us or we're going to do the job. We have to. That's what the money's for. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that that money is used for its intended purpose, period. She can talk about 10% or whatever she wants to talk about. All I can tell you is that we are here to try and get some information from you all to understand where the issues are so we can address those through a planning process. That's it in a nutshell. So.
And I want to add to that, Ms. Vivian, what she said is true. As far as the planning process, that's going to take up to about 18 months. That's getting the plan done.
We've already said that.
Then you look into the design. That's going to take maybe a year or so. And then the construction, that's going to take 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
This is not something that they can just throw together. And you don't want it thrown together. You want it to work. So, yeah, it's going to take time. But I can tell you this. Say the money goes back and they get the money. How much longer do you have to wait? Because then they got to go through the same process that we already started at. They got to get to where we're at. So then you got to wait even longer.
Look, we've been down this road. We're past that point now. We're looking to move this project forward. The money's in Arkansas. So whatever she's thinking, I don't know, the money's in Arkansas. It sits there at the NRCS, and we have made some draws on it, and we'll be making a few more now that we have to pay these engineers to come out and talk with you and understand where these problems are and deal with the issues and develop a plan so we can then move to the design phase. I will say this, that agreement has a completion date, an estimated completion date of August 30th, 2030. That's the estimated completion date. That's all 3 phases, planning, design, and construction. So it's a multi-year project. So I'm not sure, I wasn't involved with all of the prior stuff that she was speaking of, but I can tell you about the here and the now. We have the agreement, we have the money, we have the engineers, we have the plan, and we're moving the project forward.
Thank you. Oh, okay, my bad, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Excuse me, I don't do the drama, but okay then, I'm just here, I live in Rosswood, 1001 Rosswood, Fairway. It floods, they clean out one side of it, but the water gets to about the middle of the area and it just clogs up. It don't go any further. My neighbor's house is just across the street. The water was up to his steps one day when we had that rain for about 3 or 4 days. So it just floods right there in that area mainly. So it's 1001 Fairway in Rosswood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, Alderman Stephen Mays, Senior Alderman, Pine Bluff City Council. Thank you for your attention. Thank you all. I mean, we're here because we're tired of flooding. Right. Am I right? Yes. I didn't just come here. I really wanted to hear what was going to be said. The issues are still the issues. The streets are still flooding. Been doing it since I was a kid. When I became alderman, I had the guys, the street department, go down under the ground in them pipes in the Fourth Ward, UAPB, Dollarway, Pinecrest, Cottonwood, in the Loop area, and chip out that dirt. It's been sitting in them ditches for 40 years. You know, we missing the whole issue is unstopping the drains, getting the water flowing in the city of Pine Bluff.
Yes.
I mean, what are we doing? Really, these men and women are trying to solve the problem. But let me tell you something. It's bigger than this meeting right here, because once this meeting is over, everybody's gone. But you know who'll get all the calls? The alderman. And I probably get more calls than all of them because I return my calls. And the rest of them not even gonna call you back. And y'all sit up here all the time. Y'all sit up here and talk all the time. Just talking. I get the job done. Am I right or wrong? And I know what needs to be done. Why don't y'all stop talking? Let them do this here and just follow them. If they say, if y'all get them the job, I'm gonna watch everything they do. Anybody can come here. I had a pastor, so you can come Pine Bluff beating the pan, and people follow you. If they don't do the job, while I'm on the city council, I'm gonna let y'all know, cause y'all not gonna watch it. Y'all not gonna watch it. Y'all, cause I don't talk. I get the job done. Ask anybody in Pine Bluff. A lot of them not gonna do nothing. They just talking. Well, I'm gonna watch y'all when you. I want y'all to do it from the beginning. 30 million. Come on. If y'all mess up one time, I'm gonna call the state troopers in to audit you. And that goes for the rest of y'all. I'm tired of stealing. We got this thing. They stealing, and y'all need to wake up. Y'all smoke too much weed, some of y'all. And listen. If the shoe fits, wear it. Even if you're just trying it on. You know, I'm listening to y'all. I'm listening. And this is a bunch of foolishness. Just get the job done.
Yes.
Just get the job done.
Yes.
Yeah, y'all just talking. When you after this meeting over, you're gonna forget what was said. As an alderman, I gotta remember this stuff. I carry a book around, taking notes. Been doing this for the last 12 years since I've been alderman. You know, I ain't gonna lie to you. And it's up to date. And I still can write. You know what I'm saying? Cause some of y'all can't do. You lost your skills. You're losing your skills. You're getting older. Come on now. I keep it real. Yeah, come on, just see. I'm gonna give y'all a chance. See what you're gonna do. You wasting money. I'm gonna watch it closely.
And you should.
Yeah, and you know, if you waste any of the money, any of y'all just talking. When they leave, their pockets are fat. The money, and then but y'all gonna forget who was here. You gonna forget what was said. But as alderman, I gotta keep up with this stuff because I represent the people, and you won't vote me out because I'm gonna do my job. Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? But I'm not a lazy alderman. I mean, you got a lot of them up there lazy. It is what it is.
And Councilman Mays is absolutely right. It is what it is. And one thing I can say about him is that he does his job. And we're all going to work to do our job. And I'm going to work as hard as I can as long as I'm in this seat to cover and to protect Pine Bluff. When I made a decision to ask that Pine Bluff spearhead its own project, it was because we had the capacity to do that. It was because BMA was trying to figure it out. When we made some moves to help them, they said that Pine Bluff was trying to take over. Pine Bluff was never trying to take over. Pine Bluff was just trying to get these projects moving. We feel still that we have the capacity to move forward because we're going to be held accountable for these projects 50 years after they're completed. We feel that we should drive that engine that gets these projects done here in our community. We know that we have the capacity to do that. We're ready to get started with that and to get it done. We're asking you to just trust us. We have had a meeting, 2 weeks ago now, with a representative from NRCS from the federal level. They're going to let us know if we can pull out and conduct our own project. If they tell us we can't, we're going to move forward with the teams that are in place at this time. But by no means are we going to do anything to cause Pine Bluff to lose the money. We feel that we do have the capacity and we can be accountable. We don't feel that this group has to operate our project. I don't think they'll even keep us apprised of everything that's going on. Let me tell you why. They scheduled a community meeting in our community, this meeting actually, and it was scheduled for June 19th. Nobody contacted me. Nobody told me that they were scheduling a meeting for that date, and I was going to be out of the country. And I felt some kind of way about that. Then when I called and asked why wasn't I notified that there was going to be a community meeting in my community, I pulled my book out and I looked at the guidelines, the duties of the city, the sponsoring city, and we are the sponsoring city. And it said nobody was to call a meeting except the sponsoring city. So even if they are calling a meeting, I felt that I should have been notified first. So I had to let them know that I'm not even going to be in the country on June 19th. So can we reschedule that meeting for a time that I can be there? I love Pine Bluff. I'm working for Pine Bluff. I'm going to continue to work for Pine Bluff until the very last day that I'm in office. The last thing that I'm going to do is to allow that money to go back. The money will be spent in Pine Bluff. And if we can operate our own project, if we can spearhead our own project, we're going to do that. If we can't, we're going to work with the powers that be. And that's a promise.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I would just real quick, sir, before we come to you. Mayor, thank you for giving us a representative for you named Ms. Rhonda Hall. I just saw her. So she was on those meetings on the Zoom call with me, Frank, and Mayor Dunbar and Mayor Butler. Let me say this, Mayor Washington. So
Wait,
she
are
was
you
on,
saying Rhonda approved that she knew about
Let me
that?
say
I've
this.
talked to Rhonda and she did not.
Thank you for sending your representative that was on the call so we could schedule these meetings. And thank you for answering the call to change the meetings as well, too. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Marty
That's
Rowe.
not
I
true.
live at Winter Place.
What's your name? State your name again, sir.
At Winter Place, Marty Rowe.
Okay.
We've got a real bad erosion problem. And I go to get help and they say we can't help you because you live on private property. Are y'all gonna be able to help people that live on private property?
When do y'all want to answer that? It's about
We can't answer that question right now. Once they figure out how the water flows and the issues there, then they'll be able to do that when they do the planning process. So we can't answer that question right now, and I do apologize for that.
Now, another thing is, are y'all gonna do a study on biobartholomew?
Can say that again, sir.
Are you gonna do a study on biobartholomew?
Y'all
Sir,
familiar?
if this water,
Bayou
if this watershed
Bartholomew.
project,
Oh,
Several of those smaller watersheds are in the Bayou Bartholomew watershed.
Okay.
it will be addressed. All of those outlets that lead outside the city will be addressed as part of the watershed.
yeah. And y'all county judge
And those
will
nine
be able to
sheds.
work with y'all and help y'all on that. He'll be able to work with you all with the land on the water that's on private property. So reach out to your county judge. He's willing to help and work with you all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So I was curious as to what the deciding factors would be on the project. How many people are affected? How many homes are affected? The cost of the project? So what would be the deciding factors that make the project go through to the end?
Kenneth, you want to answer?
Be a
Well,
yay,
you
nay?
okay?
Well, the plan is gonna be the key. I know we keep saying that, but once the plan is determined, it's gonna say all the issues out there, where they're affected and so forth. Once that's determined, alternatives gonna be looked at, and then, once the alternatives are there, you're gonna look at what's the best option, for the watersheds. And that's what's gonna determine. So at that time, there'll be a lot of discussion going on, trying to see where the most beneficial areas are gonna get and where the dollars go the farthest. And that's gonna be the decision.
Is
made
that
by
going to
the
be
design.
less dollars to an area, or is it going to be the area that is affected the most, the more people that are affected? Is it in the city limits or outside the city limits?
The project is mostly focused on within the city limits. but it has to be the watershed. But the primary use is for flooding within the city limit. Now, like I said, that plan is gonna be a key. I can't say to you what area is gonna be funded or anything because I don't know.
But this money was primarily designated to address flooding issues in the city of Pine Bluff.
That's what I said.
In the city of Pine Bluff.
No.
We
if you
covered a
look-
lot of other
Did you look at the
areas.
agreement?
Well, today, when I read the thing, it said county also. And all of these watersheds are in the counties.
Right.
So,
If you look at the agreement, that I mentioned the communities and cities that are listed in the agreement. Now, the agreement does list Pine Bluff at the top, the city of Pine Bluff. But if you look at all the areas that it affects, it says the communities and cities, and it lists all those that I named. So yes, if you want to just look at the top, it does say the city of Pine Bluff. But if you look at the rest of the agreement, it lists several communities, and it does list Whitehall in there.
and it does
So
list
I go
Atkins
by
Lake.
What I see in writing.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a part of that agreement, and that's why I operate from.
This is a complex project. It's 9 watersheds that encompasses 27 communities in this area, and they've got to look at all of that. This is not just Pine Bluff. If this were just about Pine Bluff, then I'm pretty sure we would have said, okay, go ahead, do your thing. But this affects more than just Pine Bluff. There are 26, 27 communities around here, and we are looking to how to move water from the residential areas out. That's the objective.
Are you guys also working with the local water districts or the drainage districts that we
have
pay
to.
taxes
Yeah,
to?
They will have to, yes.
They're gonna have to work with them, the local land work
Conservation
group,
districts, yeah.
some local government. Who knows who all gonna have to be involved in this, because once you get to going through the plan, you might have other federal agencies, EPA, who knows who all you're gonna have involved in.
ADEQ.
Because once you get to going, you don't know what's gonna be affected by it.
Right.
So, you know, that's why I say, once you get to doing the planning, that's what's gonna determine everything.
So there'll be more focused meetings once the engineers get involved, get in on the ground with the outreach and the program. There'll be more focused meetings as they move around and look at these problem areas. And they're gonna, in consultation with the city and their representatives, determine what's the best approach to handle what they find as a problem.
I just don't want our county to be left out. I'm all for go forward Pine Bluff,
Yeah.
but, you know, we have a big county too that we're affected by things as well.
Well, you did hear the mayor say water goes from the city out through the county, so they can't be neglected or overlooked in this project. So it's gonna all come back to what these engineers find when they start to look.
Well, engineers, I look forward to working with y'all.
Yeah. Now,
Y'all, thank you.
let me address this, and I know we're about to wrap this thing up, but you know, we've got to. We didn't come here to argue with you all. We didn't come here to do anything but try and get your input to help us help you. That's the only point we're here. Now, Romans 16 tells me, beware of those who cause divisions among you. Now, you have to beware of what people's motives are when they come. But I'm telling you, we're here to help. We're not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid for this. We're here to try and help this community. And if it were just about Pine Bluff, we'd say, okay, Pine Bluff, go ahead and do your thing. But this affects other communities across the southeast and the southern part of the state that if they lose this funding, it'll never come to them again. So if it were just about Pine Bluff, go ahead. But somebody has to speak for those other communities who are not here tonight, who stand to lose flooding, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to address flooding. So I just say, beware of those who cause divisions, talking about what happened in the past. I don't care about what happened. I'm here to tell you now, we're here to help you. We have the money, we have the project, we have the plan, we have the engineers. Let's move forward with this project.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. My name is Martavius Proctor, and I am, like many of you, a resident of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I'm also a student at UAPB. So we have 2,000 students, and not all of those students are from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, but it's affecting our tourism and the people that want to reside here when we have flooding in on our campus and surrounding neighborhoods because they can't go to the places that they want. So my question to you all is, because sitting there, it sounds like there's a bunch of unorganization within this whole project, and that's just me saying that on the record. What is so special about this project that I should be able to trust you all in getting this issue solved, when you guys are, that's not true, that's not true? What's the selling factor in this project?
Thank you for saying that. The great thing about this project, even though ABMA, Arkansas Black Mayors Association, is the lead on this project, we cannot do anything if it wasn't for the federal government watching over us, making sure that we go through every step on the way. So part of this, what we call, NRCS called a scoping meeting. That's what you all see. That's in our timeline. I think Karen had touched on it a little bit. This is a scoping. So we have a timeline that we have to follow, and this is part of our timeline. So the next thing we have to do is get the planning, the firm teams ready to do the work that they need to do to come back here again and have another meeting, because we understand that we cannot collect all the flooding areas in Jefferson County, because this is a watershed project, not a Pine Bluff project. So we just want to clarify that. So once we get the firms here, they're gonna have another meeting just like this. They may have 2, they may have 3. It just depends on how much information they collect. NRCS, which is the man standing behind you in the white shirt, ran the children. He is making sure that we connect every dot, every move we make that we have to make. That timeline gonna have to be approved, and he gonna make sure that we do it. So it's not about if ABMA gonna do it. It's about we doing the thing at the right time when it's supposed to be done, and the federal government is gonna make sure that we do it, no matter what. He'll make sure.
Okay, so if this project turns out to be a flop, when you say 2030, correct?
That's the estimated completion date.
All right, 2030, and this project is not completed, as the current date, what alternatives is ABMA looking at?
First, we're not even thinking about flops and stuff, because we on board. The only thing slowing us up, just seriously, is we don't have the addresses, we don't have the pictures. The next meeting that you all gonna have is gonna be a meeting similar to this. So we already in the project. We have the experts. We don't have to tell them what to do. ESJ has a strong, very strong team, maybe the strongest team that we had that sent them a proposal. So we're not worried about the work that they're doing, because they know how to do this work. Only thing we need from you all is the addresses, y'all input. And that's what we're so grateful for today, to come and get you all addresses, y'all input, and y'all passion, because this work will be done. And the great thing about it, we said 18 months, but they may get done in 1 year. So that goes 6 months, and then the engineering team may get it done in 6 months. So we just giving us some room, August of 2030, just in case. We never know what'll happen, but we're not worried about this strong team doing this work. We're not worried about that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Albert King Jr., and I'm so glad you all are here.
Thank you.
I appreciate the efforts that you all doing. I've been knowing Mr. Lee since the 80s. I trust him. I know he's a man of integrity, and we've had these ditch problems since my mom was a little girl. As far as trust issues, that goes both ways, okay? And as far as the Black Mayors Association, I appreciate you all coming here and bringing this to us to try to help our ditches situations. As far as all that other stuff, all I want to say is thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope we get this money so you all get started.
Hey, thank you very much, sir. You have something? Okay.
Greetings. My name is Shauna Spears, and I have been very critical, consistently critical, of our city council and of our mayor and of Go Forward Pine Bluff. But today it is apparent that the mayor heard us when we said that the city needs to be responsible for city business. We've had enough agencies, companies, groups to try to take over the city. So for that, I'm thankful that city business is going to be handled by the city.
Thank you. Thank you. And for the sake of time, I think County Judge will be the last one, you all.
Thank you so much. I'm County Judge Gerald Robinson. I'm going to keep this real short. Again, I know some of the members on the panel. Mr. Lee and I went to college together with classmates and all that stuff, and I do trust him. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this got real personal real quick. And I think what I've seen tonight was that we strayed from the objective. Yes. And straying from the objective is not good. You know, from all the way from my military background all the way up to now. When you're doing special projects, it's planning. There is a planning phase, and what we have here is engineers. We have everybody in place to make this successful from what I've seen. So the engineers are going to have to do their job, the citizens, and this is what this was about. And we kind of strayed away from this. This was about the citizens tonight. That's right. Giving the addresses, talking about their issues, not us as politicals getting up here to talk about our infighting. That's embarrassing to get up here and start throwing jabs and all those things. This is about the citizens of Jefferson County, and we have to solve these problems, and we can't solve them until we hear your voices, and I think that they keep reiterating hearing your voices. So keep letting your voices be heard. Rome wasn't built in a day. Right. Amen. It's going to take time, but be worthy to hold your elected officials accountable to make sure that these efforts are transpiring and that we are doing what we're supposed to do. Hold us accountable. That's all this is about. Citizens, let your voices be heard. Give the addresses, and then let's go into this phase of getting this work done. Planning phase, the engineers got jobs to do, and I'm sure that they're a whole lot smarter than I am when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we have to rely, the mayor has to rely on these professionals to bring this knowledge to us. But this is about the citizens. Please don't, no disrespect for any elected officials. We make this too personal. Right. This should have been about the citizens. So,
thank you, County Judge. I just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight. We really had a good time, and I'm gonna bring up our marketing team to come up here, because he's gonna give you some orders, because we want to make sure that you all know exactly what we're doing. So I'm gonna bring up Marion Jackson with the design group. Thank you all for coming out. We'll be around to ask us any questions.
Thank you again. I'll be really brief. I'm just for housekeeping. Only I want to make sure that those who did not get an opportunity to scan the QR code and get your address in the database, the table back there at the exit, they've got some written forms that you can fill out. It's critically important for two reasons. One, if you know in the airport, as they say, if you see something, say something. We need to see it so we can know what we can do to address it. So it's critically important that we get your address. Also, to everyone's point on this panel and others in the audience, elected officials, this is about you. So if you also want to be a part of the effort to go out and tell your neighbors, we need to get your information as well, because we're going to be asking you to help us with some of the outreach efforts. So it's critically important. If you have not scanned that code and gotten your address and some specifics on the flooding issues you're having in our database, please do now. If you do not have the ability to do so, we have written versions of the survey that you can take to get your information as well. So I thank you in advance for doing that. We will be following up with you soon via email, text message, or whatever preferred method of communication you identified, and you'll hear from us often, and we look forward to getting your feedback. So thank you. Fill out the form if you need to. If not, have a great night.